The other day, I was scrolling through my homepage of YouTube and a show was recommended to me, and it is clips from the Whatever podcast.
Men don't give a fuck about if a woman is funny. Like, that's just so low on the totem pole of what we care about.
Now, this isn't a podcast that I would typically be interested in because it is a dating podcast and it is something that doesn't really have any sort of relevancy to my life at all. For context, I have been in a relationship with my husband for 18 years. We've been married for 13 years. We're doing really well. So I have no interest in dating, but something about the clips caught my eye and I clicked on one of them and it just kind of gave way to me feeling like I have to see if this is the common thought process of people in the dating scene right now. Often a lot, because people know that I have been in a relationship with my husband for an extremely long time, they ask me for advice. How do you make a relationship work? How do you have a successful marriage? And I feel like my answers sort of all are the same, like lots of communication, having respect for one another. But then when I watched the clips from this podcast, what I noticed was that the mindset of the people on the podcast really surprised me, because generally I will say that I am not in conversations with people who are in their 20s, they are dating, they are, sleeping around, they are doing all of those different things. Like, I'm kind of hanging out with 35-year-old moms. So listening to the back and forth between the podcast host and the guests on the show was really eye-opening to me, because I realized that I am so far out of the dating scene that I actually can't believe that people think like this. And so I thought I would do a little bit of a reaction today to the Whatever podcast. Again, who am I? I'm just some lady on the internet, but these are also just people. I thought it would be interesting for us to hear together how these people think and how the men here react and how they have their, kind of back and forth. Because the other day there was a clip from the Whatever podcast and I saw like a bit of it, and I'm hoping I can find the longer form version of it. And it was one of the male hosts saying that men don't care about having a funny woman. They don't care if she's funny. They don't care if she's witty. They want a soft, submissive, subservient woman. And I couldn't believe how all of them were like, yep, And I was like, the fuck? I did not know that people think this way. So then at Christmas, I was asking my husband and my sister's husband, is this how men think? And both of the looks on their faces were like, no. I thought it interesting because if this is one of the more successful dating podcasts out there, then the people watching this might go on to think that this is sort of the agreed upon narrative that men have, the agreed upon preferences, and maybe this is just how men think. This is just how women think. No, it's just how the people on this podcast think. So let's react. I don't know if this is the one. The question here is, why should men pay for the first date? I'm going to liken this to, they shouldn't just necessarily have to. But I know that when I invite somebody out to dinner, I intend on paying for them. Like when me and my friends go out to dinner, if I'm like, hey, you want to go to dinner with me tonight? Like, I intend to pay for that dinner. I don't expect for them to come and pay for themselves unless like we agree upon that. I don't know. I feel that the person who asks the person out would pay. Yeah, you can totally split. Like if that's like an agreed upon thing, like, hey, you want to split with me tonight? Like, I don't know. I guess you could ask. There's really no harm in asking. The worst they could say is no or make it feel weird, but there's not an expectation for the guy to pay in my perspective, but for the person who asks.
Women have a really hard time articulating what they bring to the table. And I think sometimes it calls into question, like, are we actually bringing something to the table, right? Because we think like, well, my company's enough. It's like a lot of women can offer their company. What makes you special? What makes you different? What makes you worth? Because when we think about this money,
my company is what makes me special. My personality, everything about me. I kind of don't. It's very fascinating to me that there's all this like talk of value. Like what kind of value do people bring? Personality, human connection. Yeah, my personality should be the value. I don't know what really the question is there. What else could she bring to the table? Like, what else could they bring to the table?
Makes you worth, because when we think about this money that men have, we take it for granted, right? This is time that man spends out of his life to earn those resources to share it with you. Why are we deserving? And why can't we articulate that? If we're going to be dating, and you said you're looking for marriage and hopefully children, I think, like, did you say that earlier?
I said that, yes.
Yeah. Like, that's my question, because men don't know automatically off rip why they have to pay.
I cannot speak on behalf of all women. That's why if I were a man, I wouldn't be dating all women. I think I'm engaging, I'm funny, I'm thought-provoking, I think I'm pretty cool.
Men don't care about if you're funny.
I understand that, but I crack myself up, so I'm going to count that as a pro.
This is the portion of the clip that I saw, and I'm glad that this was in here. Men don't care if you're funny. Then what the fuck do you care about? Then what do you care about? What value do you bring? What value is it that you are looking for? If I'm not funny and my looks don't matter, you don't care about makeup, you don't care, then what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? Men don't care if you're funny.
Keep going. Like you're doing well. You're doing well. Like you're answering very like this.
I think that I'm pretty thoughtful. I'm sorry. I just didn't know you wanted a list of why I think I'm so great, because I've been seen myself called egotistical and a narcissist like 97 times, which is totally fine.
Don't worry about that.
It's totally fine. I just I didn't realize you were listening.
You said funny. Where on the totem pole of what men care about in a woman?
I heard something the other day that was like, when they asked a bunch of men and women, like, what's important to you when dating, and they both said sense of humor. Men define a sense of No, this is true. Women define a sense of humor as a guy that makes them laugh, and then men define a sense of humor as a guy who thinks
that the woman
thinks that he's funny.
Okay, yes,
right.
I see what you're saying.
So I think we all can agree, like, men are kind of the comedians, but I'd like to say I have my silly moments. Like, I like to think of myself as like a good time and funny.
She's funny.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, you're like, I would say you're okay. Majority of women are just like not funny to men just because they have a different sense of humor.
Totally.
But like
totally.
you bring the silliness, the playfulness, right? Yeah. So it's just like we just have to be prepared to ask these questions because we're constantly being like, this is what I deserve from men, and we're not willing to say like, well, gee, like, did I earn that?
Earn.
It's just a good question to ask. That's all that it is.
Yeah.
I know we're in that. Like, did you see what happened? Like, you said that I, for some reason, thought that you needed to be a virgin to have that first date paid for.
I was truthfully trying to understand the answer you were looking for, and your answer was a list of qualities that I myself possess.
Yeah.
I thought you were asking a broad question. As women, why do we deserve to have the first date paid for? We don't. Like, every single woman, no, I don't think every single woman is great. I don't think every woman is marriage worthy. Like, that's the whole point of dating. That's why you have to feel them out, see who is your vibe. But
you know what's like a good answer that you could say too, that for some reason like people don't want to say it, is like, you're hot, right? Like, I mean, you guys can't tell because y'all can only see her from the waist up, right? But you work very hard on your body. Like, you can actually leverage that. Like, you can say like, well, I'm actually beautiful and I put a lot into my fitness and I put a lot into my nutrition.
So that's why she deserves to have her meal paid for, because she puts a lot into her fitness and her nutrition. See, it's so contradictory, because what you're hearing people say is, well, why should you deserve to have it paid for? Like, oh, just because you're this, because you put on makeup, because you think you're funny? No, because you're hot and you have a nice ass. That's why you deserve to be paid for. Like, that wouldn't have been a good answer, and it wouldn't have been the answer you were looking for. In fact, if she had answered that, you would have torn her apart for that answer.
You don't have to shy away from that being a quality too, but just so y'all know, like, looks get you in the door. A personality is what keeps. Don't get me wrong, but looks get you in the door. So like, we have women out here looking like a whole like adjustable 4, okay, trying to be like, I deserve to be paid on a first date. It's like, boo,
Yeah.
The
why?
kind of men that want you, like, you're not going to be happy with them.
Okay, so it is what I'm hearing. The answer you wanted from me was because
about you, the person. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I was looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Men don't give a fuck about if a woman is funny. Like, that's just so low on the totem pole of what we care about. Give me a boring chick. I love boring chicks.
Really? Like, truthfully?
I shouldn't say like boring, but
don't say that.
I don't need. See, a lot of women look to men to be their dancing monkeys and their entertainment. Women are looking for the vibe, the chemistry, the click. We don't care about that. We want a girl who's mellow, who's calm, who's submissive, who's demure.
Yeah.
I don't need a girl to be my entertainment. However, a lot of y'all, if a guy's boring, actually, we have a video on this. There's
You don't like a silly girl? Like, if she's silly, you're not going to be
playful's
like, oh, she's
okay.
cute. Like, that's fun.
Playful's okay.
Petulant.
We want a girl who's mellow.
Mellow,
who's
calm,
who's
submissive,
who's
demure. Mellow, calm, submissive, and demure. Who is we? You. Sure, fine. This is your podcast. You're speaking for yourself. That's absolutely fine. You do you. If that's what you want, it sounds really, really fun. It sounds like a really fun relationship that will last an extremely long time and won't have any issues at all. Absolutely. We don't want you to have a personality. We don't want you to be funny. We don't want you to be silly. We don't need any of that from you. I want you to be boring. I want you to sit there and look pretty, is basically what he's saying. While also at the same time saying men don't care about your looks. There was a previous podcast that I listened to. In there, he's talking about that he would never want any sort of plastic surgery on a girl. He would prefer a small lip to a filled lip. He would prefer a small butt to a BBL butt. He would prefer a little bit of belly to a liposuction tummy. Bull fucking shit you would. You've just explained that you want a hot, subservient woman, personalityless. You want her to sit there and be soft and demure. What a boring ass life. And if that's what you want, hey, that's absolutely fine. But the problem is that podcasts like these and listening to him say these things, which fine, again, everybody has their own preferences and you're entitled to your own preferences and I will not take that away from you. But there will be women who listen to this podcast and who become soft, submissive, demure because they think that's what men want. Now, I asked the 2 men in my life that I could ask the other night, and I asked, is that what you want? And both of them vehemently, no, absolutely not. They love laughter and banter with their partner. We're coming up on 20 years together. We laugh together. We're best friends. It's hilarious. It's so much fun. And sure, there are someone out there, and that's the thing, okay? So he's, like I said, he's allowed to speak for himself. He's allowed to give his thing, but he's saying, we don't care if you're funny. We, as in the collective men, we don't care if you're funny. We don't want that. We want submissive, demure, soft, quiet, boring. And I'm sorry, I feel like this is gonna come off a little harsh when I say it, but please, oh please, dear Lord God, do not dumb yourself down for dumbass guys who want shit like that from you. It is absolutely imperative that we prioritize our personalities, our own likes and interests, that if he doesn't care about your interests, if all he cares about is that you are demure and submissive, don't you dare try to dumb yourself down for some dumbass man. Because I don't know this guy. I don't know he could be just such a nice guy. From the vibes that I get, gonna say him and I wouldn't really hit it off. However, I just think that intelligence, good conversation, back and forth, humor, you don't have to just laugh. Yeah, like laugh if he's funny. And you know what? There are guys out there who do care. And guess what? They're probably better guys. It's like, you know what? Fine. He's entitled to that. They are all entitled to anybody that you find attractive. Like, hey, that's your own preference. But for me, I find a man who is funny attractive and who thinks I'm funny, who can laugh at my jokes, who doesn't treat me like some subservient loser, who doesn't have a thought in her head. If you want a Stepford wife, hey, fine. But to make it seem generalized as though most men don't care, I would highly disagree with that, actually. And again, this is coming from my perspective, but just all of the dudes that I know and hang out with, it seems pretty important to them. And it seems like the rapport and connection that we all have is so much stronger and better because of humor and the ability to like think of each other as equals, and that she's not some subservient, demure, soft Stepford wife who's just there to please and satisfy her husband every step of the way. But I think that it's almost like an overgeneralization from a lot of the guys, at least on this podcast, which I assume because the host thinks this way, he's bringing on other men who also think this way. I can assure you that this is not the overarching, agreed upon ideal scenario, an ideal woman. And I think that's why a lot of people, probably in today's day and age, are suffering in the dating world, are struggling. A lot of the gals want the guys to be tall, rich, muscular, and the guys want women to be soft and subservient and demure. And we are complex. We have a lot more going on than the outward appearances and first date meeting. Like, you're going to marry one of these people and you're going to see the absolute lowest of low of them and the worst parts of them and the best parts of them. And that's the joy of marriage, is the complexities of the human experience. It's such a very shallow existence for a lot of these people. It's about so much less than what people really are. People are so much more than this podcast or a lot of the conversations lead people to believe. Like, women are more than they're being portrayed as on the whatever podcast, obviously. But so are men. They're complex. They have feelings. They have emotions. They're more than this superficial, nonsensical, we want subservient women portrayal of them. And I don't know. It just bothers me. But whatever. I think it's probably meant to. It's reactionary and it gets the views. You know, there's a difference.
Do you here's a question.
But I don't need a girl to be witty and like have these amazing stories.
But you don't think it's like hot if she's smart or something like that, or hot if she's like
you can be smart. You can be smart and also calm and mellow and...
Yeah, of course. But I'm saying, do you think it makes a girl more attractive if she's smart?
If she, to some degree. To some degree,
I want a dumb, calm, mellow. Okay, fine. So I recently discussed in a recent video if I was going to make this video or not, and I asked you guys, like, should I react to the Whatever podcast? And this is one of the comments in the video. The Whatever podcast is complete rage bait. A lot of the guests have said the host is actually very nice. It's all a facade for clicks. I feel that I completely agree with that, just based on some of the things that I've seen. However, a lot of people may not realize that, and a lot of people may take what he is saying at face value and start to modify their behavior based on the popular rhetoric about what women or men should be in relationships. So I get that. I get like clickbait, I get rage bait, and it does work. I'm making a video about it right now, and I'm sure that's exactly what they want because it just files more viewers in that way. It's just infuriating to me because, like, while I understand that we all have different perspectives, we all have differing opinions, I don't like the popular opinion, which it doesn't really seem like just rage bait to me. Some of the guests that are on there are very clearly serious. They're very clearly pretty serious. I think they definitely intentionally bring on guests that are more controversial, so they can have like these hot takes and controversial opinions and like these arguments back and forth and the rage quitting and things like that. I think ultimately it's worrisome to me that the more I see about dating in 2023 or 2024, and just the way that people are perceived and the way that there is this sort of almost pendulum swing in both directions, where before it was like women can't do XYZ, and now they're like pendulum swinging the other side, and like, I'm gonna do the fuck I want. And then men are like, oh, we want women to be like strong and tough, and now we're like, now we want demure, quiet, and subservient. I almost feel like with each extreme comes the equal and opposite extreme pendulum swing. And I feel like we need to find some of that common middle ground here. I just think that we need a little bit more nuance into the reality of what most people are like. I would consider myself probably like a solid 5. Like I'm a solid 5 in looks. And personality, I think I'm up there. I think I have a really good personality. Probably a solid 8. I think I got a good personality. You may disagree with that, and that's totally fine. What I will say is, though, what I lack in looks, I think I make up for in personality, and I have had no shortage of interest from guys, and good-looking guys at that. My husband is the hottest fucking guy I've ever seen. That's not to be like a cocky little bitch here. That's to say, I think that personality does play a large role in that. I don't know. I think those things do matter, and if they didn't, well, I probably wouldn't be married. I'm not saying I'm ugly. I'm just saying that I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm a 10. I think that I'm like average looking at best, and I think that's fine. Like I like the way that I look. I couldn't care less. It's just who I am. It's just the face I was born with, and that is what it is. But I'd like to say that I feel like there's so much missing conversation from the other side of the table that I kind of wish they would bring on guests that would rival them. The podcast has done its job. The job of the podcast is probably to piss people like me off so that we make commentary about it, and then they get more views and more millions of dollars. And so you did your job, Whatever podcast. I promise you, if you want to be the submissive in a relationship, if you are calm, if you are unfunny, and you are more of a boring person, and you want somebody to just care for you and take care of you, hey, go on a date with the host of this podcast. I think he would love you. And that's perfectly fine. If that's who you are and that's what you want, then great. But I don't want somebody dumbing themselves down or changing themselves or trying to fit into what you think people want, because that's the common agreed upon sort of behavior that seems like is spreading on the internet right now. It's nonsense. I can promise you that right now. All the best guys that I know love a funny wife. They love a good conversation. They're wonderful guys with really great personalities, and they talk a lot on this podcast about high value men and high value women. I would beg to say we have different opinions about what makes somebody high value, to each their own. But I would love to hear what you guys think. When you hear those clips, when you see that, you guys can sound off in the comments and tell me what you guys think based on what you heard me say today. You guys could totally agree with me. You could totally disagree. I think that's the cool thing about the internet, is that is the whole point. We can do that, and we can disagree, and that's fine. We can keep on keeping on. I hope you guys enjoyed my reaction to the Whatever podcast. If you guys would like me to do this more, or if you would like to send me clips that you would like me to react to, let me know down below, or you guys can send them to me on Instagram. You can DM to me, or you can just tag me in the comments. Sometimes I don't see those because if there's too many tags, they just kind of get lost. Yeah, I thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you at my next video. Bye.